Hi everyone, my name's Michelle and I'm going to show you how to do your own bookkeeping as a sole proprietor. This video is meant for someone who's a freelancer or has a side hustle and maybe they don't have a lot of consistent income, but they only have income and expenses. They don't have anything complicated like inventory or payroll or anything like that. It would be for someone filing a Schedule C on their Form 1040. So I like to use Wave Accounting. I think it's a good alternative because it's free. It's not as good as QuickBooks Online because it doesn't have as many features and it doesn't have as many reports, but I still think it's a good option, especially if you don't want to pay for a software. Maybe you're just starting out or not, like I said, not bringing in consistent income. So this would be a good option for you. And I'm just going to go to the pricing tab. You can see that the accounting and invoicing is free. There's no hidden charges. If you want to process payments from customers with a credit card or ACH, you will need to pay processing fees. And then if you want to set up payroll, you would pay for that. So I'm just going to go back to the main page. You would set up your account by clicking on the sign up for free button and answering a few short questions. It's very simple to set it up. I already have an account set up, so I'm just going to sign in. So this is what the main screen looks like when you log in. I already have a little bit of data in here, but not much. So you can see a little bit of information here under income and expense. But over time, if you are adding transactions over a period of several months, obviously this is going to fill in with a lot more information. The first thing that I would suggest doing is setting up your chart of accounts, which is in the accounting tab. A lot of accounts are already going to be set up in here, but you'll probably need to add a few things. For example, I already added the Chase checking account and Chase savings account. The reason I put the numbers here is if I have a lot of checking or savings accounts that I'm tracking for a company, I find it easier to make sure I'm in the right account when I put the last four digits of the account number. But I just made these up. This is everything in this company file is completely fake. But to add an account, you would just click on Add Account, make sure it's in the correct category, and then just give it a name. And then credit cards are going to be under liabilities and credit cards, so I added this generic credit card account. Income comes with the generic sales account, but you can change the name of this. For example, if you're a landlord, you might call this rent income. If you're a salesperson, you might call this commission income or something like that. It just varies. And you can add more than one income account if you want for different types of income. And then on the expenses tab, it already comes with a lot of expense categories. As you can see, I did add a couple. I added continuing education, and I think I added dues and subscriptions, but otherwise there's a lot of accounts already in here, so you may not need to add anything. And then under equity, there's this owner investment drawings account, and it actually explains what the account is for, which I really like about this software. It gives you a good explanation. So owner investment and drawings would be any money the owner is putting into the business or taking out. They can put assets into the business, which is usually just cash or, checking, or it could be other things like a vehicle or a building or something like that. But we're going to keep it simple and just keep this one account that they have set up. You can add multiple accounts. For example, if you wanted to have a separate account for owner investments and then a separate account for owner drawings, you could do that if you wanted to. But I'm going to try to keep this as straightforward as I can. And then under banking, you can connect your checking account or credit card account. So when I come here, it gives me all the big bank names, but you can type in anything you want and it'll pull up other bank names. And then you would just log into your account to connect it. And then there's a little button that allows you to automatically bring the transactions in. If you have any problems with this, just make a comment under the video and I'll try to answer your questions if I can to help you. But most people, even if they don't have an accounting background, are able to set up the connected account. And I'm going to go to accounting transactions. The first time you come to this screen, you may have to click on something that says add manual transactions unless you have already connected your bank account. And I just want to add that I only recommend connecting your bank account or your credit card account if it is solely for business use, because you wouldn't want to connect it your personal account and have personal transactions mixed in with your business transactions. So you would only connect an account that is for business only. And I actually do recommend getting a business bank account even if you're not making a lot of money. I know you have to pay for it every month, but it is worth it to have your business transactions separate from your personal transactions. But not everybody does that. So when you come to this transactions page, if you click on the add manual transactions, or you have connected an account and brought in transactions, this usually defaults to all accounts, and you can see you can go to your different accounts like the credit card. I don't have anything in there. The savings account, the checking account. I did put some transactions in here just as examples. So you can scroll to different accounts if you need to, or you can just go back to all accounts. I'm just going to do checking account transactions, so I'm going to actually choose that. And then to add income and expenses, I just use these buttons up here at the top. There's also a more button. You can add journal transactions, but I would discourage you from using that unless you know how to do journal entries and you know what debits and credits are. So I'm just going to walk through a couple of examples. First, I'm going to add an expense. So when I click on that, it just brings up this line, and I would just put in the information. The description is up to you. You can put whatever you want here. The account, if you have the Chase checking account chosen up here, it will default to that here, but you can change it if you need to. And then you would put the expense category here. And then you would click on this little down arrow to get more details. If you want to add a vendor, you could do that here. I already have a couple of vendors in here, but you could create a new vendor. I do think it's easier to have your vendors already set up before you add the transactions, because if you click on create new vendor, it takes you to a new screen, and then you have to create the vendor on another screen and then come back here and refresh it, and it's just easier to have it already there. And then you would just click on save. And that's it. It's as easy as that. Let me add an income. You can put whatever you want here. You can put the customer name, you can put the check number that they paid with. It doesn't matter, it's up to you. And then you would put the account. And then you would click the little down arrow, and again, similar to the vendor side, you can add a customer or you can add a vendor. In this case it would be a customer, and just save it. I'm just going to add a few more transactions. I'm going to add another income. And then I'm going to add a couple of expenses. Now keep in mind, if you have your account connected and you have it set up to bring in the transactions, all this will already be here. You just might have to change the category and add vendors and customers. Okay, let me add a couple of expenses. Now I'm going to show you what you would do if you had a return or a refund. So let's say you took something back to Walmart and you got your money back for something. That would be an income back to you. But when I click on this income button, it doesn't let me choose an expense account directly, so I'd have to choose refund for expense, and then ideally I would put it back against the expense of the original purchase, which is office supplies. And then let me add maybe another expense. In a real company, you'd probably want to add more details. Like, for example, you might want to add what you purchased from Amazon. Maybe you purchased some office supplies like notepads and pens and paper or something like that. You may want to put that detail in there. And that's pretty much it. You would just continue adding expenses. Let me do a couple of more complicated transactions. They're really not that complicated, but these would be the types of transactions that would be easy to make mistakes on. Let's say you transferred some money to your savings account. So I just chose add expense because it would be an expense, or would be money being subtracted on the checking account side. And under the category, I'm going to choose transfer to bank, credit card, or loan. And then I would choose the savings account. And notice it automatically created a transfer on the savings account side. So let me just finish inputting the $100 transfer. So I just put in the amount and I'm going to click save. And it saved, it's a positive $100 on the savings side, and then it's a negative $100 on the checking side. And you could go to the savings account and see that on that side. It just shows it as one transaction. And then when I go back to the checking, it shows it as just the minus 100. So I just wanted to point that out. And then another type of transaction would be if you pulled money from your business checking account and transferred it to your personal bank account. It would be an expense from the checking account, and it would be considered an owner withdrawal. So over here under the category, you would want to make sure you put the owner investment or drawings account. And notice that it does not give me an option to put a vendor because it's going to the owner. There's no need to put a vendor. And I would just save that. So all the positives were in green, the increases to checking, and then the negatives were in black. And that's all there is to adding transactions. So at the end of the year, you would go to reports and you would run a profit and loss, and it would have the totals of all your office supplies, all your rent expenses, and etc. Before I show you all the reports though, I just want to go to the sales and purchases tabs. So the sales tab is where you would create invoices if you wanted to send invoices to your customers. You can set up recurring invoices also, but before you can create an invoice, you have to create a product or service. And this is just the item that goes on the invoice, and you have to connect it to an income account. So you would add the product or service here. I'm just going to edit this one so you can see it. You can put a price, like if you have a set hourly rate for all your customers, you would put that here. And then right here is where you would want to connect it to whatever income account you have. That way, whenever you create an invoice, it goes back to the sales account. And you can set up multiple products and services. You can have, maybe you have one hourly rate for some customers and then another hourly rate for other customers. You could set up multiple items, and then you could set it up however you want. You can name it whatever you want. Maybe you sell products and you want to put a product and service for each product that you sell. And then you would go back to invoices, and obviously you'd also have to have some customers set up before you can do this, which you just add a customer here. If you want to send their invoices through email, you could put their email. In this example, I just have their name, but you would put their email address and any other information that you want to show on the invoice right here. And then you'd go to the invoice tab and just create an invoice and go through this process. Here's where you would add the item and put in a description and the price and all of that. And then under the purchases tab, this is where you would add bills from vendors. And again, it's very similar to the customer side. You have to have a product or service set up. So I added a product or service for rent. In this case, I would be buying it or paying it. So I chose the buy this option, and I would link it to my rent expense account. And I didn't put a price in there, but you could put the price of whatever the monthly rent is, if that makes it easier. And then creating a bill, again, you'd already have to have some vendors set up under the vendors tab, but you would just create a bill here. And then another feature that this software has is receipts. You can save receipts in the software, so you would just upload a receipt from your computer. And this is just a great place to keep it. And then it says Wave automatically creates an expense transaction and calculates the sales tax, if there is sales tax, for every receipt you upload. So that's an option as well. I'm not going to go into that, but it is something that you can look at. So let me go back to the payroll tab, or I'm sorry, the reports tab. Okay, so the profit and loss is probably the most common report that people look at. You would just set your date range to whatever you want, and then you would change it to either cash or accrual basis depending on which of those methods you use in your business, and then just update the report. You can see that it just shows me a summary of each category, but if I click on details, it gives me more information, and then I can click on any of these blue icons to go to all the individual transactions that make up the total. And then if I needed to export this so that I could send to the CPA, I would just click on the export to go to either a CSV or a PDF file. And then the balance sheet is usually another report that they want to see. And this just shows a snapshot of the assets, which would be your bank accounts, savings accounts at the end of the year, or whatever date you put, any debts you have or credit card balances, and then the owner investment drawings balance. So those two reports are the most common. Cash flow is a cash flow statement. This basically shows your net cash change. You want that to be a positive to show when you're bringing in more money than you're paying out. And then income by customer is a good report because it shows you a breakdown of how much money you're bringing in per customer. So that's a good report. You wouldn't have anything under aged receivables unless you had invoices that were overdue, and I didn't put any in here, so there wouldn't be anything in that report. And then purchases by vendor, that would be another report if you want to look at how much you're spending for on each vendor. The general ledger report sometimes is a report that the CPA wants to see at the end of the year, and you would ask them if they need cash or accrual basis, and then just use the date range that they need. And you can see it basically just gives all of the transactions for each section. So that's pretty much it on the reports. I hope you found this helpful. I know there's a lot that I didn't go over, but I was trying to keep this video somewhat short. Feel free to comment below if you have any questions or there's something specific that you want me to make a video about. Thanks for watching.